Okay, guys, today I'll be interviewing an amazing author, Kayla. How you say your last name? Because I don't
Ambrose.
Ambrose.
Mhm.
And I pick up her book, Nine Life Alternating Lessons, Secrets of the Mystery School, Unveiled. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for so much for writing this book.
Yeah.
I picked up your book while I was they call it spiritual awakening. I was reading all the law of attraction book. Um, anyway, can you introduce to yourself to the audience, please?
Sure, I'm an author. I've written 6 books. Nine Life Altering Lessons is one of them. I'm a wisdom teacher, which means I teach mystery school teachings. I call myself a modern muse and your travel guide to the other side. And I was kind of born this way, came back remembering past lives, came back remembering kind of who I was and what I wanted to do in this lifetime. And I've spent the rest of this life trying to do that and share it with others and teach and let people know kind of, you know, what it's about. So, uh, in a nutshell, that's what I do. There's a bigger, fancier career thing you can say with it. I've had a podcast show for years, like Explore Your Spirit with Kayla, where I've interviewed people about this. I love hearing other people's stories and what makes them, connect and grow. But the mystery school teachings in that book that you're talking about, the 9 lessons, is my heart, my love. It's probably, it's the first book I wrote. My students, when I in my mystery school, asked me to write a book and said, not everyone can study directly with you. And so that book I wrote is the first 9 lessons when you go on this journey of a mystery school, whether it was in ancient times or now. And it gets you started on that path. And that's what I'm most passionate about.
Right. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, what I do is I do book reviews because a long time ago I did a book review of yours, but I at that time I wasn't ready, but
Mhm.
now I'm ready. Now, I'm on a mission. I'm trying to change the way that the law of attraction been going around because I want to change the way of thinking because I think that so many times my mission is to be able to help people to live their dream, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm in the process of living my dream. I interview an amazing author like yourself, and because I checked one of your interview with Normandy Ellis.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's really amazing author too, like yourself, and I wanted to change a paradigm, because I think that so many times because I interviewed Bob Doyle from hit movie The Secret,
Mhm.
and I want to change the paradigm to playing field. What make you write this book? You said it's your passion and heart and soul, and what your message you are trying to convey to the reader. That's why I
the
want.
the message is that we're so much more than we remember ourselves to be, and we get confused down here thinking we're human and that the stuff really matters. And my point of this book is to take you on a journey and to have you look deeper and say, who am I and why am I here, and to understand that, I believe in reincarnation, that you're repeating lifetimes and adding to it and evolving. And I think nature shows us that everything is, evolution and change. And we see reincarnation in nature, whether it's the plants that grow and die and are born again, or the acorn from the tree and onward. So I do believe we have multiple lifetimes and we come back and evolve, and that we are a soul, and the soul is the most important part. And we kind of pick different bodies, vehicles to travel in each time, how we look, according to what we need to express or understand, where we're born. I believe we pick all that on the other side. And so in this book, I wanted people to think about that deeply. Who am I as a person? And why am I here? What's my passion and my purpose? And then the book goes deeper into that, trying to show the as above, so below, the ancient Hermetic axioms of the mystery school teachings. And I try to say, I think in the beginning of the book, number one, don't believe a word I say, because I'm not here trying to preach to you or convince you. I'm sharing with you what I've learned and known for many lifetimes and studied again in this lifetime. And if it feels good to you, if it sounds good, tastes good, try it. And if it resonates with you and you want to go further, then here's some steps to go further and to explore on that deeper level. And some people resonate with that. And if they do, I'm happy to be their guide. Because I really say I'm not a teacher. I'm just helping you remember the wisdom that's already within you. And so I just try to say some things to spark that reawakening within your soul that remembers, that is so wise and knows all these things, but we forget when we come down here. So I'm just trying to reawaken that within a person.
Okay. So much
So
for
much
that.
for that.
But also, I do you also love reading books?
I do. Can you see behind me? That's just a few books.
Yeah, because I'm trying to solve problem, because I know that when we say within us, right? I know that's nature, right? Because I know that we're sometimes we forget that um we live in, you know, a male dominant society, and we forgot our feminine side. We suppress it, right? Or most guys do. But oftentimes I guess, you know, because I came to realize that, because I'm on a journey to find out what is, you know, the true path, and what is like um what is, not everything is black and white, right?
Mhm.
And we have our own journey to go through. um what can you tell the audience, what is the mystery school? Because I've been trying to like because I go to alchemy and I read alchemy and
Sure. Well, touching on what you said earlier too, you know, people think of history as linear, that we start here and we move across, but history is actually cyclical, it spirals. So we have times that are more patriarchal ages, where it's more what we call male dominated, and we have times that it's more matriarchal, where it's more feminine dominated. If you look back in ancient Greece and ancient Egypt, in those times, it was more matriarchal, more feminine dominated. And the difference, what you see in history, when it's patriarchal, sometimes is their tendency to have levels like I'm better than you, or you're subservient. And it seems to be more controlled. When it's matriarchal, it's more of a circle, like, hey, we're all together, let's help each other. And you see in the matriarchal times that there's a little bit more balance. Instead of just God, there's gods and goddesses, there's male and female archetypes, where both blend. And the goal is really, what we're trying to get to is not being one or the other, matriarchal or patriarchal. And when we have relationships, even what people we call a soulmate, even then, it's not to have that person make you happy or make you whole. The journey is within. The journey we each have within us, a male side and a female side. And we're seeking that balance within ourselves. And that's what the mystery schools teach, is that the journey is within. So it's not about finding someone else that makes you happy or completes you or brings balance into your life. You're supposed to be exploring the male, the masculine, and the feminine within you, and bringing those two into balance. And as far as the history of mystery schools, they've been around since before recorded history. They almost always were passed down orally. Every culture has stories of mystery schools in some way that taught. I mean, we talk about Egypt and Greece a lot because they're very popular and they built beautiful temples, but all of Eastern philosophies had mystery schools and still do. You know, we can see them in India. We can see hints of them in China and Japan, everywhere. You can see Hawaii. Even if you go back and look at the kahunas, you can trace back and see. It's almost any civilization that's been around for a while, you can find the trace of their mystery schools. And people think, oh, why were they hidden or mysterious, or esoteric is the word they use, which means for the few. It's not that you weren't invited or that anyone wasn't invited. It's that only a few people want to do the work and go that deep and really get to know themselves, because you have to transcend ego. You have to transcend your self-absorbedness. You have to want to look within and understand who you're here, and then say, okay, I get who I am. Now, what am I going to do with it? How do I be of service? How do I help? How do I grow? And a lot of people just, you know, sometimes don't want to look that far. So the reason they had those temples was the people that really wanted to go deep and study did, and they went in. And those that didn't, the temples had holidays and rituals that people could come to that would put them in that mindset. Here's a ritual where you light a candle, or you burn incense, or you dance, and we have food, and we call it a holiday, a holy day, right? We have these rituals that would remind people of the sacredness, of us being here, to take some time, who wanted to live their life in other ways, let's say, but one needed to be reminded and wanted to be reminded of certain times of year. So in the old days, mystery schools provided all of that through the temples. They they had the temple priestesses that would do the outward rituals and parties and events, and then you had the high priestesses and priests who would teach the people who wanted to go much deeper and learn to do. So when you do that, you learn about yourself first. You have to, like I said, transcend ego and do things. And then you start to learn, I guess, some of the magic of the universe, the way the universe works. And you start to develop those abilities, psychic abilities, magical type abilities, alchemic, chemical things, and understand the lead and the gold is not like what they talked about in the Renaissance, where you're trying to, make gold, but it's a transmutation within inside the body. And one of my books is The Awakened Aura. I talk a lot about the aura, how I see auras around people, how it changes. And you can see that alchemical transmutation in a person when they start to refine their energy and they start to glow with more light and they get a gold light around them. The lead is like the iron in the blood. And when we start to change our thoughts, raise our consciousness, raise our energy, we refine the lead that's, the iron, the lead in the blood, refine it into a higher vibration, vibrating out of our chakras and our aura, lifting up into the higher chakras, goes out into the aura and becomes more of a gold. And that's that's why my book is Secret of the Mystery Schools Unveiled, because I get in trouble sometimes. I used to have a lot of people that would show up when I would give talks and they're like, you're telling the secrets and this isn't right. And I'm like, it's time. It's the age of Aquarius is here. It's time to give this information out. So I do share it freely. I write about it in the book. I teach about it. I talk about it. That's just one of the refinements. And so when you look in the art from like the Renaissance time, and you'll see like a halo, in a lot of the Renaissance art, that halo, that gold halo, is really depicting the aura that person has raised their consciousness and their vibration, and they are awakened, they are enlightened, they're vibrating with that gold energy. They've done the alchemical transmutation from within. And that's what Mr. Scholes tried to do, was to empower, enlighten, inspire, educate, so that people could reach their full capabilities that have been lost over time. Because we have a really bad track record of certain groups getting religious and trying to kill other groups or wipe out all their information. So then I have past life memories of that, being burned at the stake for teaching these things. And, then we have to wait, and people like me have to come back and try to share it again and hope this time people are more tolerant, so.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I do agree with what you say. So many time, like oftentimes when the law of attraction people don't want to do the work, because they want the quick fix. And I noticed that I noticed, because I interview many great artists. I mean, author was it Dennis William Hawk and Robert Allen Bartlett. Amazing authors. You probably heard of them. Yes, and I noticed that because I was reading this book called The Wicca and Witchcraft, right? And I was reading Hinduism, and I was reading this book called Thomas True Word. It's called The Bible and the Mystery, the Bible Mystery and the Bible Meaning. And I pieced it together. People believe in the devil, but I hear a lot of people say, a cult is evil or whatever. It's not, right? And I remember I was really into the occult, and I was reading the name Lucifer was light barrier. And so oftentimes I don't believe, because I destroy the myth in my head that people have, because people are afraid, witch, I was reading this book where the witchcraft and Wicca, they were talking about really cruel things that people did to the people, the witchcraft, and I feel hurt, because I was like, you don't need to do that, because Wicca is based on earth religion, and it's all about natural energy. Like it's the same thing as like the Chinese, they use qi. Like it's all saying the same thing. But because I noticed that if Chuck Norris, right? I
Mhm.
listened to his interview. He talked about is not only the physical aspect, it's the mental and the spiritual. And I understood that it's the same thing as the alchemy, the spiritual and the mental in three levels, right? And
Mhm.
we like misunderstood. It's not the physical only, but it's about all that. I think that's what people forget. But thank you so much for the amazing information. That's holy crap. Uh,
Well, with a cult, when you have groups that are seeking to control things, whether it's political, whether it's taking over countries, or, we look at the history of Europe and how there was a campaign, with Constantine to kind of take over, in all of Europe at the time. And they brought religion into it to try to control the masses and take over things. Well, when you're on a campaign like that, like any PR campaign, there's a winner and a loser, and you talk bad about the other side. So all of a sudden, words that meant, didn't mean a bad thing, like a cult, they start to say it's bad, or you create a bad guy. I mean, I could go into talks about religion and the history of that a lot, of, how they've thrown words around and made things. But, a couple hundred years later, when you've been brought up thinking that this is bad, or told there's this big bad thing or whatever, you just don't know any better because you've been told that since you were a kid. And so when you start to really, that's why I love for people to read. That's why I say in my book, don't believe a word I say, go out and research it, Google it, look at the real histories of things. And you'll see that in every religion, if you really boil it down to its essence, it's really just about love, caring about other people, trying to be the best you can be a good person. The rest of it is man-made dogma for control one way or another, whether you eat meat or fish or don't, or, those are all man-made dogma things. If you take that out and you look at the core, they're all about love and kindness, and just being a good person. And I think, we're coming out of that now. I see and talk to a lot of people that are, describe themselves as spiritual, not religious. And some people laugh at that. But to me, religious means you follow a certain dogma. You are assigned with a certain group. And spiritual is that you've had a personal experience of some kind, and you're taking that experience and you're wanting to know on a deeper level. And so to me, that's the difference. You can be religious and never had a connection with the divine, but if you're spiritual, usually something has happened to you in your life that has made you feel connected to something greater. And I respect all religions because I think we're all souls at different journeys and evolutions and life paths. So some person may need a more structured religion because that works for them at this time, that they need to have that and go through that journey. Someone else needs not to, and to form their own path, and that's their journey. So I think if we have love and respect for all people of where they are, as long as they're not harming others, I think but unfortunately our history has not tolerated that. So
when you say it like that, I was like, wow, that opened a whole new level. Because what happened to me on 2013, because I repeated on all the interview that I did, that because some one of the author asked why I do the thing that I do, right? Because 2011 was when I had a heart broken, and I was going through I called it the shattered glass.
mhm,
The shattered glass meaning we live in the world of illusion in our head. Basically, I was going through the dark night of the soul,
mhm,
and then in 2013, I was spiritually awakened, right? And I had a therapy, and she gave me a word to help me to be. She said self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And
mhm.
then when I changed my mood or thought or whatever, like my mood pattern, like the whole universe would shift, and or coincidence would happen, or I would use my, like that's the 2013 when I my intuition was being awoken, because I never knew that I can listen to my intuition and it would guide me, because I know that intuition and the law of attraction go in hand in hand when you take personal action. And I was like, whoa, all these like good things will happen, right? And so oftentimes we live in this world of bubble, like you said, like um you said read, right? So I have, because basically I'm on a mission, right? Like I keep saying, and there was this person, um she's intuitive and psychic, but she wanted to debate how I you know uh, she said attracted or do law of attraction, but I believe that everybody have their own unique experience of how they use the law of attraction, and I think that we should let the person do how they do the law of attraction and not force them how um we see the world, and I see that sometimes spiritual people like yourself, you're really humble, and I see a lot with my friend too, my best friend. We get into trap this like condescending, like we look down on people, and
Mm.
we say we're better than other people, but we're not. Like you said, we need love, right, and kindness, and so oftentimes when we get into the spiritual, we get tripped up. I see that a lot.
Well, it sounds like in 2013 you had a spiritual experience, the dark night of the soul. So you had that understanding of that there's more, and understanding that there's more than just what you think about in daily life or what we call our human experience here on earth. And people ask me a lot, why do bad things happen to good people, or why and there's an old saying, no pressure, no diamonds. And until that, when you have a diamond, it's the pressure in its raw form that makes it eventually become the diamond. And we live on this earth plane, and we choose to come down here in this energy of duality. There's hot, cold, summer, winter, good, bad, as we call it, light and dark, to have experiences. And where we're at still on our path as souls here, we seem to still be more motivated when we have a negative experience. That's when people tend to pray more or get up or do something because they're uncomfortable, or it hurts, or they don't want to be in that uncomfortable negative space. And it's not really negative or positive. It's just either something feels uncomfortable to us or it doesn't. Because there's a conversation we could have that you might say is uncomfortable or awkward, and it might make you feel maybe not great, but I might be like, oh, who cares? It's just, that doesn't bother me. So there's very little truth in life, I think. There's universal truths, but the rest of it is perception. And I walk my students through this. I say, let's picture we're all in New York City, we're at Central Park, and we're looking in this grassy area. There's a guy selling ice cream. There's a bunch of kids playing, and we're all watching this scene. And we all see this little boy. He's like 4 years old. He's wearing shorts. He's holding a red balloon, a helium balloon, and he's looking around. He's starting to cry. And so I asked my students, okay, we're all looking at this. What's happening? And one student says, that poor boy, he's lost. I remember feeling lost like that. I just want to go hug him. And another student says, where are his parents? How irresponsible. Someone should call the police. How dare parents leave this 4-year-old boy alone, and look at him, he's scared. Another student says that he shouldn't have a helium balloon. He's going to let it go. It's going to poison the environment. A bird's going to eat it and die. That's so socially and ecologically irresponsible. And we just keep going. Everyone has a different opinion of what's happening. And someone else will say, that song reminds me of 99 Red Balloons. And he's just a metaphor for we're back at nuclear war. And I say, well, here's the rest of the story. His parents are standing right there by the ice cream vendor watching him. And he's crying because he dropped his ice cream and they went to get him another ice cream. He's not lost. He's not hurt. He's not scared. He's pouting. And so I explained to everyone as we go through this exercise, who told the truth? To each person, that was their truth, but their truth was based on their perceptions of, had they been lost as a child? Were they scared? Are they upset about the pollution in the world? Are they worried about war? Their truth really is a perception. And we walk around thinking that everything we think and say is the truth. And part of what you try to do in mystery schools is explain truth is based on your perception, and your perception changes as you age, as you grow, as you have new experiences. You mentioned when we first started talking that you read my book a while back, right? And you had one opinion about it when you reviewed it, and maybe now you have a different opinion. that, you know, because you've learned more, experienced more. So maybe you'd write a totally different review now like that, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for that. Well, I still resonate with your book, though. I still
Good.
um
Well, it's like, but do you see the layers in it when you read it? Do you, if you reread it, people say they see that I'm peeling back the onion and there's new things you.
yes, yes, so true. Um, what you said is true. As I gone through the journey, because I didn't know how to do interview before, a best-selling author helped me to do the interview because I make so many mistakes of doing an interview. I don't. I had a conception or perception of what an interview is, you know, and it because so often we have a job and they interview you, right, and you don't know what that is, but and then he helped me, and I have so many people help me. And this has become a new experience that I see. The reason why I do interview with yourself and everyone, I want to be able to shatter the notion of everyone have a unique, different experiences, perspective. Because so often time, when I try to help the law of attraction people to understand that, because people who are still learning about the law of attraction, they're still stuck in the that way, and they're only learning about the law of attraction, but there's so much more. And as I know you read, and you know that there's so much more out there that we all, like you said, as we age and we evolve, we grow, we expand our awareness and consciousness. Because I noticed that as because we live in a life where when we have a very limited perception, that's we have a very limited awareness. But when we expand the perception, we have very, expansive awareness. And as I was listening to you, you said you were lost once, or lost. Um, During 2011, I was actually lost. I cursed at God. I cursed at everything. I hated everything. I actually hated life.
Mhm.
But I love life. Well, life is doesn't get easier when you go after your dream, right? But how can you tell your story about how you were lost?
I'm not sure which time that was, if I said it in the book, or there's been times I've gone through the dark night of the soul where in my 20s, I thought I had it all figured out in my early 20s and realized everything that I thought I wanted to do and be was not. And that's a very lonely and isolating feeling when you think I'm on this path and I know what I want to do, and nothing worked out and everything in my life kind of stopped working. And I was like, you talk about law of attraction. I was like, I couldn't be working harder, thinking harder, focusing harder, but it was not my destiny. And so I was fighting against my destiny, trying to, um, you know, uh, create something or force my will. I learned how to be very good at forcing my will, because I was trained in magical things. And so I understand how to manifest. And I remember I was manifesting every day. I would drive past this building and say, I want to live in this building and I'm going to live there one day. And it was very luxurious. And, and I was like, and you know what? I manifested it. And it was the most unhappiest time of my life. So everything else was going wrong at that time, but I manifest living. And that's when I started to learn that to ask for divine order, not my will, divine order, highest and best good. And that feeling lost time for me was so important because it made me kind of let go of everything and just say, okay, I'm just going to feel. My relationship's not working out. My career path's not working out. Nothing was working out. And so when I gave myself the freedom to give it up and just be and then see what came, I went from having this trickle to this like ocean of opportunity coming to me because I got out of the way with my limited thinking. And that's, there's that saying, not all who wander are lost. And that's what I did is I gave myself permission to wander and see where my soul wanted to take me. So I, kind of just let go and set sail instead of trying to fight and hold on to things that just weren't right for me in my very early 20s. And my life changed phenomenally from my early 20s to, my late 20s. Everything shifted and changed. And it was all giving myself the ability to have that freedom and not try to be confined by what I thought society wanted me to be. I call it, I came out of the broom closet because, you know, I practiced all these things and did all these things, but I didn't go out talking about them. Or I was working in the corporate, you know, in a very corporate job and trying to, and I just realized I have to be me. And so I just let it go and did. And you know, I don't know, I know we feel lost, but I don't think we're ever really lost. It's just how connected we are in listening to our soul, or how distant we've become from it. So we're never really lost. We're always watched over. We're always guided. It's just our mindset, whether we pull away from being close to the connection. And if we can remember that, then, you know, if we can snap out of it, then it's there waiting for us. We've always got guidance and others on the other side wanting to help us. And, you know, I say I don't remember which story being lost because I've been lost many times, you know. Have had things happen in my life that made me feel lost, having people that I love pass away, having to move and start my life over again somewhere else. And, you know, I think one of the reasons I'm a good teacher sometimes is because I've been through a lot of tough life experiences that have given me a lot of compassion and empathy and understanding for the human condition, you know, of what goes on in life. And that's the reality of life, is that there are ups and downs, but what we are in control of is how we handle those, that we understand you don't find happiness, you choose happiness. You don't find someone else to make things right for you. You choose to be okay with whatever's going on in your life and make changes that are better for you, you know, rather than it's when we stay stagnant that we really feel lost. It's kind of our soul saying you're stagnating, you're not connected back with source and moving. And it gives us that uncomfortable feeling, like I was talking about, to, you know, that pressure to go seek something else. So,
Right.
you know, I think we've all been through it, and some people are more willing to talk about it and share. Some people are still trying to keep up appearances, I guess, you know. But I think when we're all real with each other, that we've all had good times, bad times, good relationships, bad relationships, good jobs, bad jobs. We've all gone through it. Some of us just try to put on a braver face.
Yes. What you said is so true. Uh, the moment, because you know I struggle sometimes to be because you know I've been trying to do a mission, and so many of us hide who we are, right? Like I don't tell most of my friends or people, like they know that I study, but not like deeply into like the world. That's I'm more interested around the 2011 or around 2013. You're right. Like I was having a spiritual experiences, and I was trying to find an answer of what's happening to me, right? I was trying to seek answers, like why is this the way it is? Why can I astral project out my body and people say it's evil? Why can I see auras? Why can and things doesn't make sense, right? And I feel like we're I know that I always play like because I created this video. It's called the blue pill and the red pill, right? And it's so much harder to stay in the red pill so many times because you have up and down. And the blue pill, a lot of people, they take the blue pill, they stay ignorant. And I think that also the even if some people think they're awake, it's much harder to stay awake. But in the law of attraction, even if they think they take the red pill, they still take the blue pill. Or spiritual people, it's like when what you say is so real, so authentic. And I think that's the message for people today, that we when because I had a lady, she's intuitive, and she's really nice, and she's so kind, and she's like, even though she's spiritual, she have struggle too.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we cover that up. I have struggle, I have because I tell in my video I have hard days. I i because my dream is to interview many people to understand a lot, and I get rejection, and it's not easy, right? And but thank you for doing this interview. I'm grateful for that.
Well, I can just say be on that side too as a podcaster. You know, I reach out to people and just don't take it personally. Some people, just their schedules and what they have going on in their life, you know, sometimes it's not really about you or not wanting to be on your show. It's just they're burned out or they've done too many at the time, or circle back around 6 months to a year later. Because it's usually, most authors I know and teachers are happy to do interviews anytime they can. But sometimes we're put at these crazy schedules where we've, you know, like I have a new book out, The Awakened Dreamer, and I've been doing that in interviews about that for like 3 months now, nonstop. So I can almost hear the questions in my head, you know, when someone's going to ask me about a dream or something, because you get used to that stuff. So don't take it personally. They may just be overscheduled.
Okay, thank you. How do you, for you as a author, what's your writing process? Because I actually want to know about that. What is your writing process, and how do you get it published?
Okay. Well, I've loved to read my whole life and to write. And my some of my books, like The Awakened Aura, is based on journals that I kept as a kid. I would see auras around people, and there's not a lot of people you can talk to and say, wow, I saw this aura, or I saw this scary thing around this person. So I kept journals where I would write and say, I noticed around this person, their aura was really red today, and they got in a fight with my father, and blah, blah, blah. And I noticed their aura felt more calm today. Or I would notice when holidays would happen and all the family would come, and I would feel like, ooh, the tenseness, right? And, you know, I would feel myself tighten up because I was feeling all the auras of everyone and all the, you know, how people at the holidays sometimes are stressed, and I would feel that. So I would notice that, and I would get sick at the holidays a lot. And I realized over taking all these notes that I was an empath. I would take in everyone's energy, and to the point it would make me physically ill because I didn't know how to put a white light force field around me, a shield to block out people's energies. I didn't know how to do that. So I was taking these notes from like 10 years old. And by the time as an adult I was ready to write the aura book, I'd had years and years and years of experience in reading auras and doing it, where it was so easy to put it together in a book, right? Because it was really just saying, here's what I've learned, and here's what I've studied, and here's my personal experience. As far as writing, so I've been writing my whole life. If you write, you're a writer. So you don't have to publish to be a writer. If you write things down, you're a writer. When you become an author, I think that means professionally that you've published. But if you're writing out there and you write because it helps you, you're a writer. And so I decided I used to have a mystery school, and it was very quiet. I just had students that found me or were sent to me or were connected, and it was very quiet like that. So and then I decided, I kept being guided by spirit, that it was time to come out and do things more in the public. And so I said, okay, I'm going to write a book. And so the book you're talking about, The 9 Lessons, was the first one. My students are like, there are people out there who want to study this, and they, they can't come travel to you and learn, but the book is a great first step for them. So I said, okay, I'll start writing down these lessons. And when I write nonfiction. So I always start with table of contents. I think about what I want to say, and I write down all the ideas of things that I want to discuss. And then I take those ideas and turn those into chapters. So I start with an outline like that. And then I know, I'll go spend so much time and write a chapter. And then I have to balance that with my other work, my daily work, and other things going on. So if you focus on one chapter at a time, it's easier to write it, even if you have to put it down and come back days later to work on another chapter. For me, it allows me to kind of stay centered or focused on one thought or chapter and get that out. And I like to write in the middle of the night. That's usually I get going and don't stop. But, as far as publishing, well, you're talking about the law of attraction a lot. So here I was, this mystery school teacher, very quiet. People found me. I trusted the universe to send the right students to me and to find me. I didn't advertise it and do anything. So I've been practicing the law of attraction my whole life. Like I said, I used to use it for will to get what I want. I learned the hard way moving into that place, never again. So I only ask for divine order, divine will. I would ask for things, but I would say only if it's for my highest and good. If it's not for my highest and good, then I relinquish it. I won't. So I stopped trying to force my will that I should have this car or this parking place or whatever, like law of attraction people do. I just said, this would be nice to have. If it's for my highest and best, divine order, thank you. So when I decided, okay, I'm going to come out into the public eye and do this and reach more people, I sat down and wrote a 5-year vision plan and business plan. And a lot of my work, I should say, because I'm a psychic, I'm intuitive, I teach entrepreneur intuition. So the people I work with are, they're in California, they're in tech, they're in New York, they're in financial districts, they're in DC in politics. I help a lot of entrepreneurs and people that I sign confidentiality agreements because they'll have me as a consultant, but they don't want people to know they've got this psychic entrepreneur giving them tips about how to grow their company. But those are the kind of clients that I work with on this. So I decided, okay, I'm going to come out in the public now. So it's time to put all these things I've learned into action. So I sat down and wrote a 5-year business plan and vision plan. And at the time I shared it with my husband and I said, in 5 years, I'm going to create a podcast. And this was back 2006. No one really knew much about podcasting. I said, podcasting's the future. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to have 60,000 people listen within the first 5 years. I'm going to write a book and have it published by a publisher. And I'm going to teach at one of my favorite places around the world. And I had favorite places like Omega and Edgar Casey's ARE and Lilydale, places that, are just nationally respected for this work. And he was very supportive, but he was like, that's so cute. You're just, this little wife at home and no one knows you. And you're just, you're going to do all this in 5 years. He's like, good on you. And I didn't really have any extra money to do it. I had like $1,000 and a computer, and that was my seed money. So started doing the podcast. I would go talk to people and they'd be like, I don't know what a podcast is. I don't know who you are. Why should I talk to you? Why should I let whoever? And I would be very patient and explain to them what a podcast was, go through, and just be persistent and kind and until they were like, okay, we give in, we'll do your show. And that's how it started. Well, fast forward 5 years later, I had 300,000 people listening to my podcast, downloading it every week. I had not published one book with a publisher. I'd published 3 or 4 books by that time through publishers. I was traveling all over and teaching. I'd taught at all my favorite places, Omega, Edgar Casey, everywhere. I had manifested everything I said I wanted to do and more. I was serving on boards, helping science and spirituality work together. I was speaking at conferences all over, talking about intuition and the logical side of it and how it can be used in our daily life. I was taking the woo-woo out of it and saying, it's just another part of us. And we use it. I was teaching people in the military how to tap into their intuition and to feel auras before they would run into a building and things like that. I had all kinds of clients from all over showing practicalities of that. And so my husband laughed. He said, he was like, I'll never discount you again in the law of attraction and what you want to create, And the thing is, though, here's the secret with the law of attraction. People study it and they think, okay, I'm saying this every day. Why isn't it working? Well, first of all, thank God it doesn't, because if every thought we had came true, I say to my students, think about how it is when you're driving and you're in traffic and you have a mean thought about the person who just cut you off. If we were that quick that we could do law of attraction, think of the mess our world would be in, the way we think bad thoughts about each other all day. I'm grateful it doesn't work that easy because we're already in a big enough mess. But second, you have to emotionally feel it. So if you say law of attraction, I want $10 million. $10 million is coming to me. But when you say it, your thought and your emotion is like, that can't happen. There's no way. You've immediately cut the thought. That emotion or that thought is much stronger than what you're saying. You can vision board it all day. You can say it 10 times. If you don't believe it and you're not emotionally connected, it won't happen. And so that's what I teach clients is you have to understand, first of all, you have to have that thought very often. 2, you have to be emotionally, mentally, spiritually aligned to it. 3, you have to do a lot of action to make it happen. I didn't just wish that it was going to happen. I got out there and, talked to people and tried to write a book and do things. You have to take action. It's not just the check shows up at the door. So with my books, I started writing the book and just believing that someone would want it. And when I wrote my first book, the 9 Lessons book, I would do some shows, and this probably happens to you. Like, you interview someone and they say, oh, you should interview so-and-so. They're a good interview too. And you reach out to them. I had interviewed someone and they said, oh, I'd love to. Well, no, actually, I interviewed this person and their publicist was listening, which I didn't know at the time. And their publicist called me and said, we really like your style of interviewing. Can we have someone else interview? You know, I said, of course, send me whoever. They sent me another person, and this time their publisher was listening. And the publisher said, we really like you and what you have to say. Have you ever thought about writing a book? And I said, actually, I have written a book. So they said, can you send it to me? I sent them the 9 Lessons book that I'd written, and they got back to me like 2 days later and said, we want to publish it. So I wasn't focused on that time of even getting the book out. I wasn't worrying about it. I wasn't stressing about it. I was just doing my best. I got up every day, did my highest and best. And my passion and purpose was I wanted to help people, wanted to be of service. I wanted to share the message. And I'd gone from sharing it just in a mystery school to saying, okay, I'm going to put myself out there in the public, doing this podcast, talking about things, blogging, guest blogging, you know, all the stuff you have to do. And put the intention that, yes, I'd like to get a book published. But what happened is my energy kind of expanded with that, and more publishers came and said, would you like to write a book? Would you like to write a book? So I've been asked more often if I want to write a book than I've actually tried to push someone like, hey, here's my book. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, it's like a pitch, right? Like you're saying pitch. Yes, yeah, I understand that. But the whole story, I am like, wow, like I've really resonate with you. Like everything you say, like I was like, God, Jesus Christ, how I was like, wow, what amazing woman you are. Like, man, thank you. Like I was like, wow, how can you resonate with me so much? Because you know that's I've been trying to get. You know, I see that's what I've been trying to tell people, right? The interview that I done, it's not because because I asked too. It was really difficult to get, the person that I wanted to interview, Bob, Dewey. It took me like 4 months to interview him, and there was, you know, I believe that most people believe that the psychic is woo, but it's not really woo. It's just I keep saying in every interview, it's psyche. You take it. It's Greek for mind and soul, right? And people get creep out, but we all have it, and that's why people use intuitive. But what you did amazing. I was like, really? You teach entrepreneurs and all those great. Wow, that's still
I'll tell you a secret, the really, really wealthy, successful people all use psychics and astrologers.
really. Oh.
And actually, if you look back in history, I think it was JP Morgan. It's either JP Morgan or Rockefeller, but I think it's JP Morgan. And you look back when he was reaching his pinnacle of wealth, he said, anyone can become a millionaire, but to become a billionaire, you need a good astrologer. And he used it. You'd be surprised the people in all these fields that use astrology and intuitives.
Well, Bob Proctor, he's very intuitive. I think you know him.
Yeah, I know of him. I've never met him, directly. But yeah, so everyone's intuitive, and that's why I wrote the other book, The Awakened Psychic. That book's all about, yes, I'm psychic, but I don't want you to come to me for readings like that. I burned out all those years of doing readings. Like, is my boyfriend still gonna cheat on me or whatever? And it's like, yeah, he is. I'm sorry, but and so I really wanted to empower people. So I was like, no, instead of just doing readings like that, I do year in review readings for clients where I'll look at their astrology. I was trained in Chinese astrology as well because I studied traditional feng shui for years, and I'm really into symmetry and balance. And traditional feng shui is very different than Western. Traditional feng shui is based on time, and you have to do Chinese astrology, and you do the astrology of the house and the astrology of everyone who lives in the house. And it changes every year. The house has a birth date. And so every year the feng shui changes in the house. So what was a good corner for something the next year is not. And that, when I first studied Western feng shui, I was like, this doesn't make sense. They're just like, put a bird in this corner, it'll be fine. I'm like, there's not a 5,000-year-old ancient practice here of feng shui that's that simplified. So I left and went and found a Chinese teacher and a teacher from Hong Kong, both two different masters, and said, I'm serious. I'm dedicated. I'm going to spend the next 3 years studying with you. Teach me the real feng shui. And when you're dedicated, those teachers will take you in. And I've been doing, mystery school teachings and studies like that my whole life. So 3 years for me was nothing to say I'm dedicated to something. Like, please show me. And so, all of those things, when you look at it in the deeper aspects, you really do see the math of the universe. And math and sacred geometry really is everything energetically in our universe. Physicists and metaphysicists, we're saying the same thing. Scientists and spiritualists and mystics, we're just seeing it from two different aspects. I see it in a more arty creative, where the scientist sees it, in the math, but it's the same conversation. And that's what I'm passionate about, is getting people to see that we're understanding it from two different sides. And that's why I've served on some scientific groups and spoken on their panels to understand that. And again, and take the woo-woo out of intuition and psychic ability, because the military uses it. I studied with someone who did the Project Stargate, which was the psychic spy program in the Army, with remote viewing. So I've learned astral travel, because you learn that in the mystery schools. It's very focused how you learn astral travel, and astral travel's, remote viewing is just one part of doing that. So I understood that, and I was like, yeah, let's do the remote viewing thing. And when I studied in the mystery schools, it's very formal. So when I came to my teacher and said, okay, I'm ready to show that I can astral travel, they said, okay, we're going to set up the test for you. And I said, okay, so I'm old. So this was in my 20s, my late 20s. And there were no cell phones at the time. There were just computers coming out. I think it was like when you get AOL, there were cell phones, but not everybody had them. And all there was on the computers was it was a dial-up modem and the AOL disk that you would get in the mail and put in. Okay, just really very rudimentary. So my teacher was in a different state, and he set up a double-blind study. And he said, okay, you're going to call me on this day. And when you call me, I'm going to give you the name of a person that you don't know. And you're going to have to connect with my energy, with his energy, my teacher, find the cord from his aura that connects to that person. Because every person we have a relationship with or know, there's a cord that comes from our aura and connects to that person. And I talk about that, how cords connect with families, how they connect to relationships, why the Huna teachings in Hawaii, everything was on a handshake, because the cords and the chakras, when you shook, that was saying what I say is real and true. And you connected it with that person's cord. And that was the connection. Signing a piece of paper meant nothing. You connected cords. So I had to connect with the cord coming from my teacher to find the cord that was connected to this mystery person. And then astral travel to find where that person is, report what they're doing, and then come back and call my teacher. So on that day, I called my teacher. And he says, okay, are you ready? And I said, yes. And he said, the person you need to go find is named Renee. And I was like, okay, well, Renee could be a girl or a guy. You don't know. And so my teacher hung up the phone. I hung up the phone. He had talked to Renee the day before and said, don't tell me where you are or what you're doing or anything else. I don't want to know, because she's psychic. I don't want her to be able to read my mind and know where you are. So I have to know nothing. So I tune in and I connect with the energy that I believe is Renee, and I follow it. And the next thing I know, I'm like in Switzerland or somewhere, astral traveling. And I look and I'm like, okay, this aura, this energy feels like Renee. So I tune in and look at Renee, and it's a man. And he's in this shop and he's looking at cheese. There's like all kinds of cheese cut into different triangles and squares, and has names on it that I can't really pronounce because, they're a different language. And I'm trying to write down what the names are. But I get enough to say he's in a market, he's shopping, it's a guy, he's got dark hair, he's looking at cheese, enough to, So I come back from astral traveling, pick up the phone, call my teacher and say, okay, I found Renee. It's a guy. Here's the description. He was in the market shopping for cheese. My teacher's like, okay. So then my teacher has to hang up. And Renee didn't have a cell phone at that time, neither did my teacher. So it's not like now we pick up the phone, call anybody anytime, or text them. He had to wait for Renee to get home from shopping like an hour or so later. Call Renee, where were you at this time? Renee's like, that's right, confirm it. I was shopping for cheese. She was looking at me, looking at the cheese, blah, blah. That's in a mystery school. That's how you pass a test. You really have to prove it with details like that. So when someone in a mystery school tells you they astral travel, they're serious. You can do it with focus and things like that. And so that's what mystery schools try to do, is to help fine tune these abilities so that people, because otherwise people just pop out of body or they have an astral travel. They're like, oh my gosh, what happened? I've had students that are like, I was looking at myself and it scared me. But I said, yeah, well, as soon as you were scared, what happened? You popped right back in your body, because there's a cord attaching that part of you, the astral self that travels. So whenever you're traveling, if you're scared, all you have to think is, I want to go home, and you pop right back in your body. So it's not really scary, but Hollywood likes to make everything like this super scary. So
yeah, I do agree with that. My friend for me, I was researching how to do, astral projection, and my friend would, tell me like, oh, it's of the devil. I don't believe in, devil or Satan anymore, because I found a common, I think I said it in the earlier, there's no, Satan or devil. People believe that only the Christianity or whatever. Um, I remember I had one unique experience for astral projection, and I wanted to do it again, but I can't, ever since I can't do it again. So I was laying on the bed. I remember I was falling deep sleep, right? And it was an amazing experience. I pop out of my body and I was floating, and I was like, oh, I'm flying, right? And I look at my body and I was like, wait, am I astral projection? I was like, yes. And then I was like, wait, what can I do? So basically, what happened is I went out of my room. I look at the mirror, and I look at the mirror, and then I went downstairs, and then boom, that's it. I was sad. I wanted to do more. But when you talking about astral, because I was listening to your talking about astral project remote viewing astral and or was it aura, right? And then also because I was talking, well, since we're talking about the law of attraction, you set your goals of your heart but not of society, right? Because I was thinking about how so many of us or people set goals of what other people, their expectation, that's why they can't manifest. But once they set their goals of their heart, they manifest more easier, right? Or things just come to them, right? And what is aura? Because I was like, how, because you say you have, for when you were like little, you're 10, you keep journals, and you was like, how can you develop them? Because I seen aura, but I cannot like develop them to the degree that you probably are. Like,
Sure. Yeah. And the other thing I do with law of attraction and manifesting is I get out of the way. I don't try to control it. So I say this or something better is on its way to me. And then I just trust that if I've asked for that once, I trust the universe will provide and bring it. If you have to keep repeating it too often, it's almost like you don't believe it. So I think it's very important to be very focused. And if it is your heart wish, you put it out there and it's coming. And then you trust that the universe in its infinite wisdom is going to bring it at the right time, because you ask for highest and best. Maybe that right time is 2 years from now. But if you really trust the process, you have to be okay with that, because it's for your highest and best, not to be right now. And that's, I think, what is hard for a lot of people. They just want what they want when they want it, and they want to use something like law of attraction to make it happen right now. And when it doesn't, they're like, see, none of this works. It's all, it's all lies. And it's like, no, it's not. But the bigger the dream too, the longer it takes. So
yes, that's what I wanted to say to people, like, because there's in the um I think of Bob Proctor teachings, and I kind of look up to him too. So I do look him a lot, but in the Hermetic teachings, they have the law of correspondence law, all those laws, and one of them he always talked about the law of gender. There's an incubation period for your dreams to happen, But all these people are now like in the law of attraction, because YouTube is a search engine, right?
Mhm.
And people would search up, law of attraction, and there's a whole bunch of law of attraction stuff. And there's instant manifestation, there's instant this and this and that. We live in a culture where everything is instant, right? Amazon, one day deliver, and I think that we're not patient enough. Like like we're impatient when it comes to starting, right? I mean, when we're too patient when we're want to start something, but we're impatient to actually I forgot the thing. I can't remember. We're patient by not starting, but we're impatient. So yeah. So thank you so much for that.
Sure. And your other question about the aura. So that's what I do. I teach people how to see auras. I have Aura School on my website where you can study. It's like 6 weeks of study with me to learn to see. But I have people start usually in nature or looking at a pet or go people watching somewhere. And it's real easy at first. You're just trying to relax your eyes and you look right above the head of the person on either side. And as you do that and you relax, you start to see um, kind of the first level, which is like a white light around the person. And that's the etheric battery. That's the animated part of our spirit that means we're alive. And when we pass, that's, those cords roll up and that light goes with it to the other side. And the cords that are attached inside with our soul detach and roll and move. And so there's no longer that light around us. We're not animated. That's the light we see in the eyes and the light in the aura. And then as you learn to see more, you see the other layers around the aura. And I read about that in the aura book, the mental layer, the emotional layer, the spiritual layer, the physical layer. So you can see the health of a person, you can see their thoughts, you can see their emotions. If you look on my website under what I call, I think, the TV program area, I was on John Edwards, the medium, had an online show for about a year. And he had different guest teachers on there. And I was one of his guest teachers where I would read people's auras online as they appeared on camera or, or called in. And because once you can connect with a person, you can see their aura through your third eye. So some people see it physically, seeing the layers, and other people see it through the third eye. What I like to do is when I'm working with a client, I'm sitting in my chair like this, and I'll have them be seated behind me. I won't even look at them. And I just close my eyes and I tune into their energy and I read their aura. I read what's going on with them and all the layers. And I tell them about themselves. And then when I've told everything that I'm picking up psychically and through seeing their aura through the third eye, then I turn my chair around and look at them and see the aura and the physical and go from there. And I like that because it keeps me very clear, kind of pure, like the information that I'm getting is very coming, from that person on the other side, not that I'm seeing them or picking up something, like what they talk about. Like I'm not looking to see if they're wearing a wedding ring or, if they look sad or not or whatever. I'm just feeling their energy and letting it go through me. But my aura book gives tips. I have on YouTube, I have a channel. I'll have to send you my channel. We'll have to share each other's channels. But I have videos on there that teach you how to see an aura, how to use sound to activate the aura, how to use crystals and wands to cleanse your aura. Have a lot of free videos on there teaching people that kind of thing. Or you can come to Aura School with me if you want to study deeper. Like I said, it's 6 weeks of study to learn to see, where I teach you what each color means and how to activate the energy in your aura. And I talk about what the future is, how the grid around us, there's an energy grid built around us. And I've been seeing that evolving for the past decade, getting us ready to move into 5 dimension. The aura is going to be the light ship, the container that's going to allow us in the physical to make that shift. It's pretty fascinating.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I'm deeply grateful for that. Sure, no problem. When after we're done, what is because I've been trying to figure I've been trying to figure out a lot of things that we have a myth around, and I want to destroy it. A lot of spiritual people. Oh yeah, I remember what you say in this video. There are spirit. There are because I want to put on my touch on it. I am spiritual, but I don't have any religion. I'm not bounded by any religion, right? The reason why is this: I like you said, religions are like dogma, and they're like, hold people, control and mind control. And as I open up and I read different aspect of different religion, they all say the same thing. And well, not they do say the same thing, but I guess people say their religion is right, and while everybody else is wrong, but they all come together. So I used to be Buddhist, right? And but then like read certain books and it makes sense. My God, that's incredible. But a lot of spiritual people believe like winning or success is or winning, they think that it's competition. But the way how I see it and how I think winning and success is it's how you see how you see fit, right? So
Mhm.
what does winning and success look like to you?
Well, for me, competition is only within me. I compete to be my best, my personal highest and best that I can be with what I'm here for. So that's really the only person I'm competitive with is, using it to empower me to get up and do my best. So winning to me is if I'm in line with that, if I'm connected to who I am and why I'm here, and I'm following my passion and purpose, and I get up every day being the best Kayla that I can be. And to me, that's winning and that's success. And the rest of it is more of wants, really, or desires or things. If you have that, what people define as success, whether they need a certain person, place, or thing in their life, people do that, but I don't define that as success. I think it's natural to want things, but it doesn't make you successful. I know a lot of very wealthy, successful people who are very unhappy. And so I think, just like I said, happiness is something you create. Success is the same. If you feel you're successful, you are. And when I feel successful is when I feel like, wow, I've done my best today, what I wanted to do. I've set these goals and I'm achieving them. And I've left the world maybe in a better place today. Was I kind? Was I helpful? Did I do things that felt good and right to me? And I have a daily spiritual practice where at the end of the night, I go over my day and everyone I interacted with and everything I did and say, did I do everything that I could in each situation to my highest and best? And that's for me because I'm competing to be the best I can be. And if not, then I resolve either to contact that person and apologize to them or make things right if I did something, and if I can't reach them, maybe it was someone in traffic I was mad at or whatever, I go in meditation and I picture their higher self. And I send my higher self to talk to their higher self. And I say, hi, person in traffic's higher self. I'm really sorry for the thoughts I had today and the energy and, that I was feeling I was more important in traffic or needed to get somewhere a microsecond earlier or whatever, than you. I don't know your story and where you were going and what's going on in your life and what made you feel that way today that you cut me off. And I can't pretend to understand everything you're going through. So I just want to say I'm sorry for my part in that. And that's just me working on me, always trying to be a better person because every person has a story and we don't know. And everyone has a bad day. There's days I've had terrible days where if I was only judged on that day, it wouldn't be good, you know? So that's just part of my daily practice is to be the best I can be. And when I'm doing that, I feel successful.
Thank you so much. You really are like wow, that's I think we could all learn to become a better person, just like you. Like, there's days that I feel like I can become better as a better person. Give more, because these type of videos that I do, like book reviews, I wanted to give back to authors because they give back. They put in their writings and I wanted to give back. Wow, thank you so much for that. A last question, and that will be we're done for today. What is the because we you touch on it a little bit. What is the esoteric teaching? Like, can you go deep into it?
Sure. Well, in the ancient temples, they called them esoteric, ESO, and exoteric, EXO. And esoteric means for the few and hidden, and exoteric means for the masses and public. And so it just depended on the level that people wanted to learn. The exoteric, like in the old days, might be parables and fables that we would read. And so maybe you didn't want to devote your life to learning everything about going within and transcending your ego and becoming fully awakened. Maybe that just wasn't something that called to you. But the exoteric, the masses stories like fables, where you learn like the tortoise and the hare, right? You read that fable that the rabbit's running all over, but the tortoise is slow and steady and he wins the race. That's a fable. That's exoteric. That's explaining a deeper wisdom teaching, but in a more easy to understand way. And the esoteric is you go much deeper. You take that story and you're like, what is the Tao of the tortoise? What was the tortoise really experiencing and thinking and feeling? And what conceptually does the rabbit symbolize in your life? And are you sometimes the rabbit and sometimes the tortoise? And how do you feel with each? Are you a combination? And you really dissect it really, really deep. Some people don't want to go there. Some people just want to learn. A little patience will get you through the day. So the exoteric's a quick story for the masses where they can get it, but move on. Esoteric is someone who's more of a philosopher and wants to understand deeper, who am I and why am I here? And why do I think like I think? Why do I believe what I believe? Am I just part of society and conditioning and I've just been told these things? Or do I really want to take a step back and look at the bigger picture? Did I bring some of this in from past lives? Did I learn it from school or church or family? Do I want to pull it apart and see if that even works for me? And so it's asking all those questions. And it's like in the ancient teachings, they call it peeling back the layers of the onion. With an onion, you just keep peeling. There's more and more and more. And esoteric people want to keep pulling back. They never truly know. And once you think you know, then you're lost because you never really know. And anyone tells you that they really know doesn't really know. And even when you think you know, you have something else happen and you're like, wow, I thought I knew, but I didn't really know.
Right. Yeah, that's the same way I feel like. Because I was gonna say I had the worst reading ever for psychic. Because that person didn't really understand me where I come from. Because we had like a phone chat, and I was I understand people too. When I can get them to talk about themselves a lot. But I still need to work on that. But when the reason why she said I will why am I seeking and why am I all the answers within that's when it's like the reason why I seek is because I wanted to destroy the myth of people about the law of attraction, or I wanted to have different perspective of life, a new experience, and that's also my dream. But she didn't listen to for that one because I wrote like 5 years ago like I wanted to do interview with amazing author like yourself. And when I do interview after people, and I'm like there's so many different experiences, so many different aspect of life that we think we know it all, but there's so many, like you said, onions, right? And I can like not see, like we can't, like I try to say it to like people, like I don't know everything. Like even if I have like all the books, I still like I still don't know everything. Like I think that there's more to like experience. Like
Mm-hmm.
but thank you.
There's only so much even on this plane that we can resonate with and understand. We know more even when we go to the other side. But we are in a big part of evolution right now. I'm sure everyone resonates with that politically, economically, earth changes. So even what we used to know, I'm getting information now from the other side saying even a lot of symbols are going to change, symbols that have meaning. And we're kind of creating a whole new energy grid right now. So even a lot of the things that we've studied from ancient times, they're about to change and not resonate the same way. So you can't really know everything, but when you're open, when you do the work and you open your chakras, when you open your psychic ability in your third eye, you can always get the new information downloaded to you. So it's good to read and to understand the history and the past and to study all these things because it gives you a very firm foundation and a lot of knowledge. It's helpful. And how you turn it into wisdom is knowledge is just reading, absorbing, learning it. But wisdom is when you then take it into life experience and you put it into action, which means it gets messy. It hurts sometimes. You're going to mess up and make mistakes, but that's where wisdom comes from. So the wisest person is the person who's made the most mistakes in life. That's just how it works.
Yeah, so many people are afraid to make mistakes. I mean, like the thing that I'm doing, it's not. I'm actually scared, right? Like, cause I want to do like different. I want to interview, not just authors, but people who I want to interview, and because basically I think it's would be uniquely, like you said, like it's like the same thing at school, right? Because I was in special education and I was labeled special ed. Once you label a kid, it'll live his whole life that way until I read books that change my life. Um, and once I start, that's why I love books because it helped me to understand that you not only need to read it but to apply it, right? And a lot of time it's very, like you said, messy, right? And it's hard to do it. Um, I would like to ask you about all the books because you have all the books. I'm curious, like all the shelf. What type of books do you have on your shelf?
Oh, on my library here? Well, I've got a lot of fiction and nonfiction mixed together. Some of my favorite authors, and of course Harry Potter. I got to have Harry Potter. And oh my gosh, there's the Ancient Dictionary of Egyptian Hieroglyphs. There's the Book of the Dead. There's classics. Some of my books. It's a mixture. It's a big mixture.
When you say Harry Potter, what do you like about Harry Potter? Because it's one of my favorites too. But
Oh gosh. I mean, I'm as close as I can to living the life of Harry Potter in the sense that, I have my school, my online school that's like a Hogwarts. That's where I teach, I teach people how to engage in magic. And I just love the way Harry Potter was written, that it's for everyone. And, you were talking about labels, a label being put on you in school. I mean, everyone gets labels put on them, right? Harry had a label literally carved on his forehead to say who he was. We all choose whether we're going to be labeled or let people define us or not. And I love, as much as I love the magic in Harry Potter, I love the humanness of the story and the people and how friendships are important and relationships and how we grow and how we stay open to things and not decide that our destiny is carved in stone, that we have free will with it as well. We do have a destiny. Harry Potter had a destiny. We all come back with a plan each lifetime of that's what we call destiny, is the plan we set on the other side and say, we're going to come back and have these experiences and learn this and that. That's the destiny. But the beauty is the free will, which is how we're going to react to it, how we're going to let it define us or not define us or empower us or wound us, how much. And that's just the beauty to me of Harry Potter. And I mean, just honestly, that's J.K. Rowling's one of the most magical, amazing writers in the world. I just can't imagine having the whole story like I write nonfiction, so it's a little different, than fiction, but the way she blended so much of esoteric teachings into Harry Potter, anyone who's into those studies know, I'm sure you do with all of that, it's all there. It's like a fictional story, but it's telling really all of those old wisdom teachings. So.
right, yeah, like alchemy, it's in there, and Nick, with because I talk about like Nicholas.
Nicholas Flamel, yeah.
Yeah, I would read Dennis William Hawk book, The Complete Idiot Guide for Alchemy, and it would talk that Nicholas is real, and I was like, wow, and they would change his what was it, the philosopher, what was it? It's
The
supposed to be.
Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, she really either lives that or has studied it immensely, because you can read through all of the books and see so many references to the mystery schools and the teachings. And even the Phoenix, Dumbledore's Phoenix, is that whole life and rebirth and the whole cycle, how the Phoenix dies and comes back, and so many references to metaphysical things in there.
When you said rebirth and is it almost the same? Is it because I asked because I noticed that every time I come into, the realm of metaphysics and stuff like that, I always come across the Ouroboros, right?
Mhm.
Like the Ouroboros is this, like I connected that the Ouroboros as it's the same thing as the law of attraction. When you send energy out, it come back. The law of correspondence, or as within, so without, Ouroboros. Never
Yeah,
teach
I'm
me.
looking. I have an Ouroboros, I think, in my 9 lessons book somewhere. I can't remember what page it's on, but yeah, I talk a little bit about the Ouroboros in one of the chapters. It's been a long time since I flipped to this book, but yeah, in there somewhere I refer to it. It is. That's a very powerful symbol.
It's very, I start to notice that well, I live in the US, right? So we would have what, spring, what was it, spring, summer, fall, and winter, but it all goes around, so it's Ouroboros.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's so big because I was doing an interview and I was like, oh, holy crap, like everything just makes sense.
That's what I was saying. Time is cyclical. It's not linear.
Ah, yeah.
We confuse ourselves down here in third dimension, thinking that this was the past, but we've already lived all this. We're just cycling around, and I think we keep cycling upward, getting a little better each time. So
Yeah, I think it's also because in the school, well, actually, school is actually insidious. Because I would read the history of school, why school was built. It was built for people become employee for the rich, and it go deeper to that. That's terrible. But school, it's more like left brain, right? And they push, we would like push kids to like A's are great, but it does. And A's measure, they most people think A's determine your intelligence, but it really doesn't. And that's my message for people. It's like it really doesn't measure your intelligence, because your brain's like it's plastic, it grows, right?
mhm, mhm.
Anyway, where can we find you online? Where do you have any social media that you have, Instagram or Twitter?
Sure. The quickest place is my website, exploreyourspirit.com. Just exploreyourspirit.com. And my name, Kayla Ambrose, and it's just Kala. No, there's no Y in it, which is an old Sanskrit name, Kayla. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest.
Wow.
Trying to think. Google Plus.
Oh. Yeah, the Google. Okay, good. Okay. Thank you so much for doing this interview. You've been amazing and a blessing
Oh,
to my viewers and to me. I'm thank you for that.
thank
Um,
you. Much love to you.
uh, subscribe to my channel, like my video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.